The BJP has swept it. There were the exit polls that suggested that the NDA altogether, BJP plus allies, will come up to maybe 300 or 306. It turns out that the BJP by itself has crossed 300. As BJP party President Amit Shah said, Abki baar 300 par, and he actually did it. The BJP with its allies are now at 349 or around about 350. Now, just to clarify to our viewers, a lot of the votes are still being counted. So some of these are declared wins and some of these are still leads, and it goes well into the night really before all of the the seats are declared as won or lost. But mostly, given the leads that we have, we know which way this is going. Some big upsets, of course. Rahul Gandhi losing Amethi, Jyotiraditya losing Guna, which is a seat that belonged to his father and belonged to his grandfather and his grandfather before that, because they used to rule that area. But tough day for all of these guys. Former Prime Minister Deve Gowda losing his seat in Tumkur, and several other such upsets. But the man of the hour is really the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi, you'll remember, had a grueling, and it's showing on his face a little bit, had a grueling campaign session because the party pinned all of its hopes on him. He travelled, he addressed more than one, sometimes more than two campaign speeches or rallies per day for over a month and a half. So really, the credit entirely for this win belongs to Narendra Modi. But there's another angle here. There's the whole angle of how everybody got this wrong. People thought all Dalits will vote for Mayawati. It didn't turn out to be that way. People thought that all Muslims would vote for the Congress party. It didn't turn out to be that way either. It turns out that a lot of people across the country voted for one person, and that person is Narendra Modi. This really is an election of firsts, and it is not a win to be taken lightly. Aarti standing by with information on what happened in this election that happened for the first time. Really a day of firsts, Aarti.
Absolutely, Faye. As you said, Narendra Modi is the man of the hour, the man of the series, perhaps, since we do, of course, love our cricket analogies here. But this particular election had so many firsts, historical firsts, and we're just going to take you through some of them real quickly. The first one is, of course, the BJP has become the first party since 1984 to get a consecutive majority. Now, remember, it was the Rajiv Gandhi government, and it was a Congress party then, that from 1980 to 1984, two back-to-back victories, and this particular Narendra Modi government has managed to achieve that feat. Now, this is the first time ever that a non-Congress incumbent PM has been sworn in or has been re-elected to power. That's never happened before. This is the first time you're seeing that a non-Congress Prime Minister has gotten a second term. Now, the third big thing is that this is the first time since 1967 that a party has bettered its own majority. It has gotten two back-to-back simple majorities on its own, and in this particular time it has managed to do even better than it did in 2014. A lot of pollsters did not think that would happen. Then the exit polls, of course, came and said, okay, hold on, maybe the BJP is going to get over 300 seats. And that brings me to my next point. The BJP has crossed the 300 mark, and this has happened for the first time since 1984. You were earlier mentioning that had been the target of the BJP. They were extremely confident that they were going to cross that mark, and they have achieved it. This is the first time since 1984 that any party has been able to cross that triple century mark. The next, of course, thing is West Bengal. Now, remember, West Bengal has been hotly contested between the BJP and the TMC. The very fact that they've gotten into double digits. Now, they haven't gotten more than 3 seats in West Bengal, and hitting the double-digit mark is a huge achievement in itself. And the icing on the cake is the fact that they've actually got almost a 40% vote share, something that Mamata Banerjee is going to be very, very worried about. Now, it's the first time the BJP has hit a 40% vote share in West Bengal. Mamata Banerjee is going to be looking at that number, very worried, especially given the fact that in a couple of years' time, we are going to have an assembly election in the state. The next big point is that this is the first time that the BJP has crossed 20 seats in Karnataka. Remember, the assembly election loss did hurt the party very bitterly. It was closely fought. It was a narrow win for them. So they haven't actually ever crossed 20 seats. And this is the first time that is happening. You saw a very victorious, very triumphant Yediyurappa earlier in the day talking about how much it meant to him. But interestingly said, we're going to wait and watch what happens next. So this 20 seats, perhaps 20 plus seats, is going to have a bearing on the state stability of the state government in Karnataka. The next big thing is that they have swept Gujarat once again. They actually won all seats in Gujarat for the first time in 2014. They have done it again. So it's back-to-back sweeps in Gujarat. Again, an unheard of feat in Indian politics thus far. Now, Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, this is the first time that the BJP has hit the 49% vote mark. Now, in 2014, everybody thought that the BJP has maxed, the BJP has peaked, they can't do any better. But 2019 has actually proved that wrong with them crossing that particular threshold. And now, for the Congress party, this is the first time since 1977 that a Gandhi has lost an election. This is something that is going to hurt the party. This is something that's going to hurt the Gandhis themselves. Remember, Indira Gandhi actually lost in 1977. And Rahul Gandhi's defeat in Amethi is reminiscent of that loss. And the fact that he lost to Smriti Irani, somebody who there is a lot of personal rivalry with, adds to perhaps that, adds insult to injury. Now, this is the first time that a Gandhi has ever lost in Amethi. The seat of Amethi has been a pocket borough for decades and decades. It was held by his father, it was held by his mother. Rahul Gandhi has been the first Gandhi to actually lose Amethi. And that just tells you how big a headline this story really is, how big the fact that Rahul Gandhi has lost Amethi is. And finally, telling sign of the Congress's terminal decline, that they've actually hovered around the 6% vote share in UP. This is the first time this has happened since 1998. So for the Congress and for Rahul Gandhi, plenty to introspect, but for the BJP, this is an election of many firsts that should put some smiles on the party's face. Faye?
All right, and I just, just to point out one thing, you did say, of course, that Narendra Modi would be the man of the series. I don't think that would be accurate. If you used a cricket analogy, this would be when there is a team of 11 on the other side, on this side there's one guy. and his coach sitting back in the dugout, actually strategizing. This is what this election has looked like, which is why it's so surprising. There were no other players. There wasn't an 11. There was actually just the coach, who's Amit Shah, who's making the strategy, and Narendra Modi, who played all the positions in this.
Actually, Roger Federer is a better analogy.
Okay, it's a tennis
I mean,
analogy.
I was actually thinking of A.B. de Villiers simply because he comes up with unorthodox shots and the bowlers don't know where to bowl.
But if we just look at this, look at the election, and I remember we've had this conversation about how much he was doing and how the BJP's hopes were pinned on this one individual. They were obviously right in doing so, Mr. Raut, because it was a strategy that paid off very clearly.
Yeah. Definitely, it was Modi's one-man show. Like you have in theatre, one-man show, only one man stands and talks for 3 hours. Here was the man who was speaking for last 3 months. So his victory, the party victory, is actually Modi's victory.
Yes.
Modi has won, and not BJP nor its candidates.
I just want to add, I think it's definitely one-man show in the terms of the sell point of one person. But I think this Jodi needs to be given the credit for it, because Amit Shah takes away a lot of the other burden that otherwise he would have to shoulder. I mean, he's a fantastic organization man and takes away that backroom work, which otherwise is tough for one individual to do. So the division of labor that they have, and they have a great working relationship. I mean, it's not easy. Mr. Modi is a very fairly lonely ranger kind of a person. It's not as if he's not the kind of person who's got a coterie around him.
He did point out in that last almost press conference that he addressed on the last day of campaigning, where he did say it was a grueling thing, but the planning was done so well that not a single event was cancelled. He didn't miss a single event. He was there. It was organized in such a beautiful fashion that he managed to attend every last event.
So
that
this
was on his.
team, to me, is quite a fabulous example of how the machinery works pretty flawlessly.
Yes, and actually, Mr. Sen, what this will do is silence any critiques or naysayers he may have inside his team. So whether they were inside the BJP or within the RSS, if there was someone who was saying we need an alternative, there is no alternative. This man is the party is Narendra Modi.
Yes, so
there can be, Nitin Gadkari's name, for example, was floating around quite a bit. Nobody is going to think about it after tonight.
So the last time you heard that was exactly we were referring to was in Devkant Barua saying the country, India is Indira, Indira is India.
Yes.
And interestingly, the parallel to this was in fact the 1971 election. I mean, I don't know if you were around. But
No, I certainly wasn't. Not for a decade after, at least.
no, that's right. So in 67, Indira Gandhi's party split. And then she came in for this 1971 election. Her opponent was a fellow member of the Congress, Morarji Desai. So there were two Congresses fighting each other.
Yes.
So that was when that's the dissent part we're talking about.
Yes.
The dissent is over in the BJP. And she gave one slogan, Garibi Hatao. And that swept the elections. Since then, the only person who's actually replicated this, and maybe better or worse, I don't know, is Narendra Modi. Because he didn't give one slogan, although he gave a choice of slogans. One was security, the other was, safety
I want
and
to
so on.
ask this question of the panel, and we also have Amitabh Sinha of the BJP and Adil Boparai of the Congress who have joined us. So let me ask the question of them first, and I'll come back to the panel. Mr. Sir, first of all, congratulations. Like Aarti was telling us before, we came to the panel, this is an election of many, many firsts. And we went through an entire list of things that are happening for the first time in such a resounding victory. I want to understand, and if you could now reveal maybe some of the cards of the strategy that the BJP put in. What do you think it is about the personality of Narendra Modi that appeals to such a large portion of our population? What is it about him that resulted in the BJP deciding that this is the individual we're going to bank everything on, to a point where you said, don't even bother finding out the name of your candidate, just vote for Modi? What was it? What is it about the Prime Minister that merits that kind of faith?
Thank you, Faye, and let me congratulate my fellow countrymen to elect the best person available to lead the country at this contemporary time, and secondly, setting the agenda of a new Bharat. See, I always say, and here also I just want to tell you, Faye, through your channel, that this is Renaissance of Indianness. See, now India is not going to look back. It is not going to take a U-turn, never. Because Narendra Modi ji has not only given good leadership, but it has actually, he has shown India its potential, where India can reach internationally and on domestic fronts everywhere. And today, very correctly, he has described in his victory speech just now, about an hour back, that all these narratives, that communalism, secularism, casteism, all these things will be redefined, and it has been redefined. On casteism front, he has very clearly said that in India now only two castes will be there. One caste will be the poor caste, and another caste will be the people who will be who will be eradicating the poverty. So only two castes will be relevant in India, not the third caste. And on secular front also, he has very clearly said that the constitution will be supreme, and there will not be any religious appeasement or anything. Only one religion will be there. That religion will be India and nationalism. So all these things are new narratives of new India, new politics, given by Sri Narendra Modi ji and the BJP, Sri Amit Shah ji. So now I am coming to your point. See, in this election, which is really historic in Indian history, and your that wing, that political analysis wing of your channel, it is also showing the same thing. So this is not only because of the Tina factor. Tina factor is just, I think it is just to trivialize the entire issue. The performance of Sri Narendra Modi ji, his focus, and he has given his commitment to the country, to the nation, that he will not think anything but the country, and he has shown in the last 5 years. So and on every front. So all these issues which were being raised by the opposition, they were taken as bogey issues by the countrymen, and that is the reason he has got such type of mammoth thumping majority in this election.
Mr. Sinha,
and that also with the highest number of votes, highest percentage of vote. he has increased the confidence of our fellow countrymen in democracy.
Yes, Mr. Sinha, in fact, you brought up, you did bring up, you brought up the comment made by the Prime Minister on secularism while he was speaking. I just want to play that out because I want the whole panel to hear it and I want comments from you on it. Can we just play that out, please?
एक ऐसा प्रिंट आउट, एक ऐसा टैग फैशन हो गई थी, कुछ भी करो उसको लगा लो, आपके गंगा स्नान करने जितना पुण्य मिल जाता था। उस टैग का नाम था और पूरी तरह नकली, उस टैग का नाम था सेक्युलरिज्म। और नारे लगते थे सेक्युलर एक हो जाओ, सेक्युलर एक हो जाओ। आपने देखा होगा 2014 से 19 आते आते उस पूरी जमात ने बोलना ही बंद कर दिया। इस चुनाव में एक भी राजनीतिक दल सेक्युलरिज्म का ये नकाब पहन करके देश को गुमराह करने की हिम्मत नहीं कर पाया है। ये बेनकाब हो गए।
All right, so that was the bites that Mr. Sinha was referring to. I go to Yogendra Yadav first. Mr. Yadav, good evening. Thank you for joining us. What is your interpretation of that comment, that secularism is a fake tag that politicians were using as a Ganga Snan to wash away all of their sins? But since the BJP came into power in 2014, no one has dared to use the word secularism, especially in this election. Mr. Yadav.
Faye, this is a moment to introspect. I would not use the usual combative things that we have been using up to elections. When the Prime Minister says something and in a sense reflects such a large popular mandate that he has today, we got to listen to that very seriously. My reaction would have been the following. I actually agree with the Prime Minister that the word secularism has been used for completely sinister purposes, that secular politics in this country has been fraudulent in many ways, that secularism has been used as a tag to keep minorities and in particular Muslims as political hostage. But if that has been busted, I would be the last one to shed tears for that. If you can, the way in which Samajwadi Party of Uttar Pradesh was called secular. What is so secular about getting Muslim votes? Nothing. What makes RJD secular? So I would not shed a tear for that. What struck me, what pained me, was that the Prime Minister failed to acknowledge that this is a principle enshrined in our Constitution. If the Prime Minister said this is a sacred principle and the politics is fraudulent, I would agree with him. But Prime Minister was virtually announcing the death of secularism in this country from the pulpit, after having such a big mandate. Is that a message he really wants to give? Because what it would do is that it would strengthen some dark suspicions that we are moving towards a situation where we would become a non-theocratic majoritarian state. In name secular, but for all practical purposes, there would be two gradations of citizens, Hindus and non-Hindus. First-rate citizens, second-rate citizens. Is that what Prime Minister is hinting at? These are very long-term things, and I really hope the Prime Minister had not put it the way he did.
Well, that's a fair point, but I see Mr. Raut disagrees. And I also want to point out that Mr. Amitabh Sinha said that the Prime Minister has changed politics permanently. India will not go back to the kind of politics we had. So now, combined with what Yogendra Yadav says, that causes me some concern. Mr. Raut, you disagree. Go ahead.
Yogendra ji, I just wanted to clarify one thing, which I also heard this speech twice in last 1 hour. And I thought that what Prime Minister was saying was this is not the funeral of secularism that he meant, but what he was saying, the end of secularism the term secularism, the way it is used in politics nowadays. So he wants to say that that type of secularism does not exist hereafter.
Mr. Mann, do you agree?
Well, I mean, that sounds a little contradictory to me, because
can I
on the
say
one
something?
hand,
Yes.
the Prime Minister is saying that nobody's even dared to mention the word secularism.
Yes.
And then Mr. Rawat is saying that, you know, secularism is something that has been practiced. Yes,
So
the
he didn't
practice
say
of
nobody has
secularism, the
dared
way
to
it has
misuse
been-
secularism.
that is used now.
So he hasn't said in the last campaign or last 4 years, nobody has dared to misuse secularism on my watch.
Exactly, yeah.
He said
he
nobody
used the
has
word-
dared to use
I
secularism
think
as
he
the
used
word.
the
at all.
word nakab, the mask.
Yes.
of
Nakab, yeah.
secularism.
Yes.
So in other words, a fake, what
Fake
he probably
secularism.
meant was,
Okay.
because he used
can I
nakab.
say
Yes,
something?
Yogindra Yadav has a rebut. Mr. Yadav, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, look, election is over. The Prime Minister said, किसी ने कुछ कहा, छोड़ दीजिए, मैं भूल गया. Today, this was the next Prime Minister of the country addressing the nation. And there are millions and millions of people, minorities, who have been very apprehensive, who must have passed the entire day today being slightly, not slightly, apprehensive, uneasy, because they have watched and partly because of the kind of things the Prime Minister himself has said during the campaign. Was this not his duty to tell them, was this not incumbent on the next Prime Minister of India to say, don't worry, things may have been said in a heat in the election, every Indian is equal to me. Should he not have said there is no kiraedar in this country, there is no makan malik, everyone is the same? Should he not have said that the secularism practiced by Congress is fraudulent, I'm opposed to all the opposition, their versions is bad, but I stand for true secularism and this is what my secularism is? Was it not necessary?
But fair
and
point,
then to
fair point.
interpret him to say, no, he said only false. I mean, why are we going by such frivolous interpretation of something which can mean so much?
Vinay, are we in general agreement that this was a statement that does mean a lot?
No, look, I have
Yeah.
a slightly different way of looking at it. If you have a political Prime Minister, and I'm using the word political because I'm just trying to draw a contrast between, say, somebody like a Manmohan Singh and Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi is a campaigner and a Prime Minister himself.
Yes.
I don't like labels in anything, and I don't like labels in politics as well. In campaigning or in election rhetoric, a lot of labeling is done as part of our rhetoric. I make a distinction between labels and action, which a Prime Minister essentially should do as the chief executive at the highest political office of the country. And for me, the only two things where I have a slight question mark for Mr. Modi is as the highest office of the land, as the chief executive, that highest political leader of the country, it carries a lot of weight. And when there is a situation or when there is an event that happens that looks like divisive, the office of the Prime Minister stepping in stops that. There is a moral pressure that comes which ensures that there is nothing happens beyond that. And I think I have less of a problem with the words or terminologies. I have a bigger problem if the Prime Minister's office chooses to stay quiet on events which sometimes demands his words, because that word has a a big role to play in quelling it and not spreading it further.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of this dog whistle messaging, and if you look at certain parts of the constitution that the Sangh Parivar has opposed for a long time, whether it's the Common Civil Code or
Yes,
part of the
yes.
statutes, or
The
secularism.
word secularism,
So
yes.
now, in that light, if you see this message, there is a subtle message that's sent to a particular section of the country, and that's something that could have been avoided today. In that
Especially
light.
at a time when,
Do you mean to
basically.
say that he is likely to delete that word secular
And I'm not saying that.
from our preamble?
But see, I would
Because
think that
this word wasn't there in the initial
it is not
preamble.
there.
It was
but it is
inserted
now,
by Indira Gandhi.
it's a
No, but
cherished-
okay. So,
it's a cherished value.
and since we've come to that point, and look how quickly we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
We're barely hours away from receiving this mandate, and we're having this conversation. Was the word inserted? If the word was inserted, then there are legal methods to modify the constitution,
As it was inserted with all
which you can remove, and then that matter will then arrive at the doors of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will examine the matter constitutionally. Vinay?
Not necessarily it has to go to the Supreme Court. It can be done by Lok Sabha. It is a prerogative of Lok Sabha.
Constitutional amendment, we were a sovereign democratic republic, and then we became a sovereign socialist secular democratic republic. So the word sovereign and secular were added later in 1977.
As has been established, that I wasn't around until just a couple of decades ago, but I want to ask you this question. At any point, even when the word secular wasn't part of our physically written in our constitution, at any point were we not a secular country? From 1947 onwards, did the founding fathers of this nation at any point decide that this was not going to be a secular country? And did we change that? But in my understanding of history, we were always a secular country.
No, but see, Faye, my entire disagreement with this argument is only this. Labels derail the argument. For me, labeling doesn't matter. If you may call yourself whatever you want to, but if there is an act of crime that has happened where somebody has been targeted or attacked in the name of religion, you need to act, and you need to act decisively. For me, that's more important. Because labeling is used to either defend somebody or attack somebody, depending on which side of the divide you are.
Or completely distract the question. Yogendra Yadav, I want to bring you in one more time on this conversation in general. Before I know Amitabh Sinha wants to respond as well. Yogendra Yadav, go ahead.
Two things. One is that before all of us were born, you and me, Faye, there was the Constitution of India in 1950, which clearly said every citizen has a right to religious freedom. So we have a whole fundamental right to religious liberty, freedom of espousing the religion, freedom of publicizing the religion. All these were guaranteed by the Constitution. And incidentally, both my friends forget that there is this famous Keshwanand Bharati case when the Supreme Court was asked to decide, can the Parliament change anything in the Constitution? And the Supreme Court said, yes, Parliament can, but there are some basic features of the Constitution that even constitutional amendment cannot change. And the Supreme Court in 1967 had identified secularism as one of those principles. I agree with Vinay, it's not so much about the label. You see, the basic thing is, here is a country where you cannot discriminate among people, among the citizen on the basis of religion. You cannot pass something like Citizenship Amendment Bill, which practically says no Muslims would be allowed to come in, others can come in. These are illegal, these are against the Constitution, whether you have that word in the preamble or not. That is very much the spirit of this country, and even before the Constitution came in, there is the freedom struggle of India. And even before the freedom struggle of India, there is Ashoka, there is Akbar. This is very much the constitutive element of this country. And Mr. Modi, who occupies today, he's our Prime Minister. He occupies the highest office today. And I really think it is incumbent for someone like him today, if he's failed to do it today, maybe he can do it tomorrow. Just a word of assurance to millions of minorities in this country, crores of them, to say, okay, elections are over, maybe I didn't mean to say the kind of things I said, things would be all right, don't worry. That is important. And instead of saying something of that kind, he launches into this end of secularism thing. It just doesn't sit with the kind of thing that you expect from the Prime Minister of India.
Amitabh Sinha, your response, please.
Faye, the most important thing which you rightly raised just now, that all these jargons and writing in words is not important, because secularism was added in 70s in the Constitution preamble, but before that whether India was secular or not. So Mr. Yadav, what he is trying to say, that minorities should be assured or the secularism should be reasserted. So let me remind him, Mr. Yadav, that India by nature is secular in real terms, not secular as pseudo-secularists thinks that minoritism is secularism. This is not done. Secularism means every citizen of the country is equal. either be it Muslim, Hindu, Christian or Sikh, Buddha, anybody. So religion is a very personal thing and he should be treated equally throughout the country. And Narendra Modi ji has very rightly said, but Mr. Yadav is definitely was hearing Mr. Modi's speech with a particular color. That's why he couldn't understand. I think that he's quite intelligent. He should have understood. He has said that no caste, no religion, only poor caste, and the caste which will actually always try to eradicate poverty will be two caste, and only nationalism is the religion. So he has said it very clearly, but I'm very surprised to know this, the explanation given by Mr. Yadav. He has, particular type of, political lines, but I was expecting that he will be giving his own independent assessment, not like a party man, because I really respect Mr. Yadav's intellect. But here I am really disappointed because he should think.
No, but I must vouch for the fact that just 2 days ago, yes,
Faye,
okay.
Faye, just a minute. Secularism is a very, very wide and very big issue and very big topic. It can be discussed on a separate, program dedicated for secularism only, and I will come and then I will elaborate what exactly secularism means. India is basically a secular country by nature. So it is not, and number two, the constitution is not Quran. Quran cannot be discussed, or Quran cannot be amended, but constitution can be amended if some flaws are there.
Okay, so let's actually ask,
and Supreme Court has rightly said.
Mr. Amitabh Sinha, let me ask you this question straight off. Is the BJP looking at any point over the next 5 years to amend the preamble of the constitution and remove the word secular? Yes or no?
No. This is not important, Faye.
No, it's very important. Mr. Sinha, this is everything.
When secularism was not there, when secularism was not there, it is a very pertinent question. When secularism was not written in the preamble, was India a communal country?
No. So when secularism was not written in the preamble, the parliament in its wisdom decided to add the word. So now my question is, will parliament, this new parliament, in its wisdom decide to delete the word? And since you have more than a thumping majority in this parliament, you can... No, I'm asking. Because you keep saying that you are, it's okay to delete, and you're saying that you have the right, so I want to know if it's part of the plan.
I am sorry, you are unnecessary. I am sorry, Faye. I am sorry, Faye. This is not the requirement at all. Secularism, or without the word of secularism, India is secular and India will be secular. So what is the reason why secularism will be deleted?
So it will not be deleted. All right. So you're giving. Okay, fair enough. No. So let's put it to rest, Mr. Sinha.
Of nationalism.
Let's put it to rest. So Mr. Sinha from the BJP is making it amply clear that the BJP has no intention of removing the word secularism from the preamble of our constitution in any way. Correct?
Let us take it that way.
No, but he can confirm.
Yes, certainly.
Okay. So he's very good. Thank you very much. So we can put that aside, and there's no point actually battling down that road. We can come back to the victory of Mr. Narendra Modi. But if anybody in the panel wants to comment before I go back to Mr. Yadav. Yes, Mr. Yadav. Mr. Yadav, do you want to respond in any way? Because Mr. Sinha has confirmed that the BJP has no intention of touching the word secularism from the preamble of our constitution.
Before Yogesh says same thing, I would like to just make one thing clear. Mr. BJP spokesman, he said that it is taken as the secularism is taken as minoritism. I think this is also a misconception. If anybody is doing that, that is wrong. That is the basic fallacy in this usage of the word. Minoritism is not secularism. Secularism has total different meaning. So I think he needs to correct it or clarify what he wants.
Certainly, but practically, Faye, what has happened in the recent past? Secularism means, communalism, minoritism, and all people, like Lalu Yadav, Congress, all corrupt people, they are coming together just on this ground. Secularism, what does it mean? What does it mean? Secularism means minoritism. Only talk about Muslims and you are secular.
You know, I must say at this point, I feel really left out of the conversation because it's also about either you're talking about Hindus or you're talking about Muslims. This country is so much more than all of that, but we're reducing the conversation to something really simple. But go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
what I was trying to say is that basically what Mr. Sinha is trying to say is that there was a certain definition of secularism that Congress and other parties used to practice.
Which the BJP fundamentally
what he's
disagrees
So in
with,
other
Mr.
words,
Singh.
one could take it further for granted that there will be, not for granted, one could assume that there will be no more love jihads. Because I'm not talking...
No more cases against
there will be no more love jihads in the
inter-religious...
sense that suddenly if a boy and a girl, I'm not mentioning which religion they belong to, one boy and one girl to different religions.
Yes.
So they will not be set
No one
upon
will-
by,
yes.
by young louts, muscular louts on the streets.
Romeo squad, sir.
Romeo squads, I was going to say, but I didn't want
there'll
to
be
use
no-
that also
there-
because there could be some other Romeo squads.
There
or
will be
something.
no cow-related violence.
Then there will be no
in the streets.
cow-related violence. I mean, if a person is proceeding legitimately with cattle in a truck, with all the permissions required, then they will not be set upon by unconstitutional forces, law enforcement agencies on the road. Yes, the police have a right to check.
Yes.
But what about these uniformed, extra
Self-appointed.
Yes. So I presume all this will be checked at
These
some
ghair
point of time.
sarkari sort of...
Any type of intolerance in the name of religion.
Yes.
Yes.
And there are enough laws to that.
Yes.
You don't have to have a separate
it's-
secular
so
law. There
even
are
if
laws.
there is crime, that there will be a very strong view upon it
Yes.
from the establishment.
Yes.
Because crime will happen, crime will take place, but there will be a very strong view. There will be no garlanding of the criminals. There will be no inviting them
And
to
then
your
there
parties.
will be also no adulation of the killer of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes. Vinay?
No, look, I mean, this is exactly why I have a big problem with labeling. The minute you start using the word secular, a party will come in and they will coin their own label, which
Version
is called
of it.
pseudo-secular.
Yes.
And then the battle becomes between secular and pseudo-secular. And this is how the goalpost keeps changing. I don't care what the label is. My only worry is there has to be an equitable implementation of the law of the land. So if a person who's going from point X to point Y, if he's attacked or if he's being threatened or he's being harmed in some way, the law must deal with him in as equal a manner as anybody else. I do not care whether you call it pseudo-secular or you call it secular or you call it common.
There is a CRPC. You
just have to implement that.
So that would apply then if if anyone above the age of 18 has the perfect right to marry whomever they choose to marry, doesn't matter what their religion is,
so
they will not be
CRPC is there.
investigated. Mr. Mann.
You know, I was listening into the BJP
Mr.
spokesperson
Sinha,
talking
yes.
about secularism can't be minorityism, right? But then secularism, the converse of that, the secularism can also not be majoritarianism, right? So basically, if you look at it, yes, pseudo-secularism, as they call it, is the vulgar practice or the politicization
Yes.
in the name of religion and, you know, appeasing a few. But essentially, Indian secularism is all about justice and equality, despite whatever religion you practice.
Yes.
And I think if the Prime Minister had just gone ahead and assured the entire country, because we've seen that there have been exceptions to justice being provided where people have been attacked in the name of religion. In the recent past, if there have been violations in the past in the name of pseudo-secularism, we've also seen that this majoritarian secularism
Has also been violent.
led
So-
to
so
violation
I
in terms of
want to
justice
bring
being
in
provided
Adil,
to people
yes.
on a religious basis.
Adil from the Congress Adil, thank you for waiting, and I know we lost the connection midway, but you're back with us. The conversation we're having is about one, Narendra Modi being the leader that he is, that has won this resounding victory for his party, almost entirely on his own. We understand from the reports that basically people were voting for him as Prime Minister and not for individual candidates in the 543 seats that were contested and won. Secondly, the comment that was made about secularism. I saw your hand go up. Go ahead, Adil.
Well, thank you, Faye, for finally giving me a chance to speak. Now, I don't think today was a day for the Prime Minister to really ignite such a debate. But first comes first, I think I congratulate the Congress Party, congratulates the Prime Minister on this historic victory, and we sincerely hope that he delivers on his promises. And as far as the Congress Party is concerned, we will continue to work as a constructive opposition party. Now, I think this entire debate of secularism perhaps is born out of the ignorance of the BJP spokesperson. Secularism is part of the basic structure doctrine. Mr. Yadav had pointed out that the Supreme Court in Keshwanand Bharati's case, it's not 1967, it's 1976, had very categorically said that this is part of the basic structure doctrine of the Constitution of India, and this cannot be amended by the Parliament in terms of or in pursuance of its powers under Article 368. So as far as secularism is concerned, it's part of the Constitution. It cannot be amended even if any political party tomorrow even has a 3/4 majority in the Lok Sabha. This is as far as secularism is concerned. Secondly, I think it's important to bear in mind what is BJP's idea of New India. Today is not a day to really actually talk about this, but since the Prime Minister has brought it up, what is the BJP's idea of New India? And what is the BJP's idea of nationalism? Is the BJP's idea of New India and nationalism Pragya Thakur's comments? Is the BJP's idea of New India and nationalism hailing Godse as a patriot? I don't think that is correct. I don't think that is correct in terms of what this country stands for and what we as leaders, political parties and opinion makers really want this country to become. Therefore, the BJP has to be mindful. I'll again reiterate, today is not a day for having such a contentious debate. I congratulate the Bharatiya Janata Party and I sincerely hope that they ensure that their promises translate into delivery.
Very well said, Adil. I do want to give Yogendra Yadav an opportunity to respond to everything that is said so far because he brought this up. Mr. Yadav, your response?
I just wanted to say, look, we can have this kind of a debate on any days. We can fight about secularism, pseudo-secularism and all these things. Was today, today is a very special day. The BJP, Mr. Modi, has won a resounding victory. There is a popular mandate for the BJP, for Mr. Modi. And usually days like this are reserved for some kind of grace. Usually on these days you show, all right, we did a few things during elections, but today we want to go out of our way to assuage, to bring people together, to join, to rebuild bridges. And therefore, while we've had this kind of debate, the last thing I want to do is to join this debate. I must say I was disappointed by the tone of the PM's remarks, and I'm even more disappointed by the manner in which the BJP spokesperson has taken it up today. Today is really the day for grace. Maybe you want to revise what you said. But I want to come to a larger question, if you allow me, Faye.
Yes.
I don't want to drag this any further, and I stand corrected about Keshwanand Bharati. That was 1973, before emergency, but after 67, you're right. The larger question is this. There are two aspects to today's verdict that we must not ignore. One, that it is a mandate. It's not just an electoral result. It is a mandate in favor of BJP, a mandate that reminds us that nation and nationalism matters, that caste alliances are not sufficient, they don't work anymore, that opportunistic alliances are not sufficient, that negative politics of anti-Modism does not work. And these are very important messages. If you want to, that any political leader must have an overall message for the country.
Yes.
And there needs to be a credible messenger. And the fact is that opposition did not have any, they did not have a message, they did not have a messenger. These are very important lessons to be learned and taken forward. The other side to the verdict today, Faye, is something we must not forget about the possible consequences. And I worry because there is something called dark side of democracy. Democracy is a wonderful system, but occasionally majority of voters can become a majority community, which leads to consequences which can be very disruptive for democracy. And one of the fears that today's verdict gives rise to, and I hope that is not true, would be that we would witness more and more concentration of power, federal powers into central government into executive
Yes.
into one man, party into one man. The other fear is connected to that is electoral authoritarianism, namely that you have elections, but you have nothing other than election in democracy. A leader says, I am the people. People support me. What is Supreme Court? Who is media? They don't represent the people. I represent the people. And that actually makes way for demolition and shrinking of democracy. I know my colleagues might say, oh, this is fear-mongering. I hope they are right. But I do want to put it plainly, our country faces this very serious danger. And those viewers who may be disappointed with me for saying so, please forgive me. Think about it after a couple of years.
Okay, all right. I do want to give the last word to Mr. Amitabh Sinha. The BJP has one last word on all conversations tonight, fair and square. The panel is yours, the podium is yours as well. I will give you an opportunity at this point, Mr. Sinha, to communicate to our viewers on the message the BJP wants to send out to the country. You have won a resounding victory of pure, support and clear pro-incumbency. People have just said, we want this government back again for another 5 years. Tell us what the next 5 years are going to be like.
Faye, the only message and very pointed message given by Shri Narendra Modi ji to the country, I will try to repeat it, that sabka saath, sabka vikas. So I am really disappointed with the narration given by Mr. Yogendra Yadav and my friend from Congress that I am ignorant. I am telling you that now the new India, which is a proud India and which has a real respect by the foreigners and countries, the powers, world powers. Now India will not take a U-turn and India will actually emerge as a world power through Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, which will not discriminate on gender, caste, creed or sex. So all these things are very clear, and Narendra Modi ji is defined nationalism also, secularism also, and caste system also. So people, I would like to request every person in this country to just try to understand what Narendra Modi ji has said just now, few hours back, that India is, India is the only important thing for him, and he will lead India to the status of superpower in the coming years. So that is the only message I just want to.
Okay, all right, Mr. Sinha. I'm going to leave it here because we've run out of time. What a day it has been. The exit polls suggested to us that there would be a victory for the BJP and the NDA. No one imagined it would be a victory of this resounding proportion, except maybe Mr. Amit Shah, who had hinted to 300 par, which is what has happened. The BJP has, won a simple majority. They will have a clear majority in Parliament and a clear mandate to make the decisions that need to be made in order to take India forward. Over the next couple of days, we will focus on how this government will plan on doing that, what parts of its mandate it's going to focus on, what each ministry should likely focus on going forward, whether it's economics, water, air pollution, all of the things that are plaguing India, how this government is going to work on all of those things going forward. For now, though, it's congratulations to the Prime Minister and to the Bharatiya Janata Party. Good night and thanks for watching.